Joining me in studio right now, we take a look at school board. And joining me in studio is Melissa McDougal, candidate for the Lubbock ISD School Board. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Chad.
Absolutely. Tell folks a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I'm from the Dallas area. Grew up there. Went to Texas Tech University, got a degree in finance. Moved back to the Dallas area, worked as a mutual funds manager and several other positions at Guidestone Financial Resources for that company for 13 years. Moved to Lubbock when I married my husband, Mike, in 2009. So I've been here for 7 years. I have two little boys, Hudson and Harrison. They're 5 and 4. Hudson's in kindergarten at Roscoe Wilson, and Harrison will be entering pre-K there next year.
All right. Well, very cool. What made you decide to run for school board?
Well, my husband and I had talked about it, had known that Dan Pope was not going to be running again, and we both kind of talked about it and really piqued my interest. Just something that I think that I could be really good at. As my kids are just entering the system, I have 12-plus vested years of interest to be able to help, and I want to be an active part of the decisions that are being made as my kids are going to be affected.
Visiting with Melissa McDougal, candidate for Lubbock ISD School Board. You said that you were taking a look at the open seat. You were interested in it. Was there something in particular that made you go, yeah, that's an interest. That's something that is drawing me to running for this seat? Because campaigns, especially for school board, it's one of those that, as I've brought up numerous times on the show, everyone's paying attention to the national stuff. A little bit on the District 19, and then eventually you get down to City Council, and then you have School Board, which, people should probably pay more attention to, but they don't know the names involved. They don't really know what all is happening. So what was it that kind of drew you in?
I have a passion for kids. I have always loved being involved with kids in some way or another, through mentoring, working at Cool Kids Camp, being involved in our youth, all different ages. I've always loved being involved with children. And to me, this is a way that I can be an advocate for our kids, to be able to be on this board and make sure that we're doing everything we can to help every child succeed. So that's why I want to do it.
What do you think the future of LISD looks like?
In our life that we have right now is that we have so many choices. Parents can decide where they want to send their kids. And in Lubbock, we have a lot of choices. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of places that we can go. And I think that LISD has great schools. They have very passionate administrators, passionate principals and teachers that love our children and want to be there. And I think that we've got to promote that more in LISD. I just think that's where we're at, is that we've got to be able to, just like all the other schools, private or our schools surrounding us, we've got to promote our schools and be able to tell them what we have and what we offer. And I think we have a great offering to give our kids.
Well, and you brought up the choice angle where kids are, I guess the popular thought, the conventional wisdom is you have a lot of parents who are taking their kids from Lubbock ISD, or kids who are supposed to be going to Lubbock ISD schools. They're going to Cooper. They're going to Friendship. They're going to Shallow Water, Idle, all these surrounding communities because they're smaller schools. Mm-hmm. And the conventional thought has been they're better schools. How do you, as someone who wants to represent LISD, how do you battle that thought? And are there changes that Lubbock ISD needs to make in order to combat that and to combat that, I guess, flight from Lubbock ISD to other schools?
And I think just to add to that, Chad, is I think we have private schools we have to compete with as well, right. Not just our surrounding communities. But I think, again, like I said, is to be able to promote what we do. We have all different offerings in our community. We've got the IB program at Roscoe Wilson. And I just think that we've got to continue to communicate to our community and let them know what we offer. I think there's just this kind of image of what public school has become, and it's a great place to go. I mean, we had an option as to where to go, and we really felt this is where we needed to be, and we're happy where we're at, and we love it, and want to back and support what's going on in LISD. I want to be an active part of making sure that we're letting our community know what we're doing. The teachers and the parents know what's happening, but our community doesn't necessarily know what's happening. At our school board meetings, at the workshops and the different meetings we have twice a month, they're letting us know what our children are doing, academic decathlon, all the different things that our kids are competing in and doing well in. Our community needs to know more about that and what's happening. We have great things going on in our school. I've visited with over at the ATC, the Advanced Technology Center, and love seeing what's going on there with the opportunities that our high school kids have to be able to get hands-on experience in so many different things to figure out before they even leave high school exactly what they want to do, and go into a vocational or go to college, whatever it is that they want to do.
Right. When you're going around and knocking on doors, and I've seen your signs popping up, so I know you're going around and you're talking to people. Are there concerns that people voice to you about Lubbock ISD or about the school board? And if so, what are those concerns, or what do they say to you?
I haven't had a whole lot. They ask what I want to run for. Why am I doing it? I want to impact each kid. Some of the calls and concerns I've gotten are for those kids of the deaf, autistic, special needs. What are we doing in those particular areas? And that's something I have a good friend of mine that's taught in that area. And I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help those kids succeed, that we've got the resources and the help to be able to help them succeed as well. Every child matters, and I want to see every child succeed in our schools.
What is your philosophy when it comes to taxes? Your opponent has been out there and has flyers where I think one of the first things that he says is, we're not going to raise taxes. Well, he doesn't support an increase in taxes and takes a pretty hard line on that. Where do you stand? I don't want to raise taxes either. The state has kind of tied our hands a little bit as to what we can do. And so what I think we need to do on that is to be able to maximize all that we can from the state and be able to get as much money as we can to be able to support our school systems without having to do that. Bond election. It's been at least kicked around that there may be another bond election at some point in the near future. If there is a bond election, what would you like to see as part of the bond election, or is there something that you think we could, maybe do without that it would be maybe a waste of time as far as a bond goes? And if the bond increases taxes, is that something that you would support? Some have said, well, I'm not going to support taxes unless the citizens vote to raise taxes in the form of a bond.
Okay. Well, there's nothing on the table right now. I've heard talk as well, probably more from the community than within LISD.
Maybe everybody's worried about a bond election. I don't know.
But I think we've got to get in there and look and see what can we do. I mean, what is it that we need to do in our schools? Our schools are pretty old, and going and visiting just the schools in our district and the high schools, they're old. We're talking 50, 55 years old, and in a lot of places. And they've done, I think, a great job thus far. I'm keeping them up to date, but there's a lot of things that need to be done, a lot of changes and upkeep. And I think one of the things we've got to look at is make a determination of, do we update those old schools to the best that we can, or do we build new ones? What is best for us? And that's something I can't say right now that we must do this without looking at all the things. There's so much that's involved in that. And I think you've got to look at all the different pieces on that. As far as the taxes on that, the voters decide that. We will bring forth, if that is a decision that the school board does, that decision's made by the voters. So, if that's what the voters feel like we need to do, then I'm behind it. And so that's not a vote we have, but what our voters actually decide on.
Right. Visiting with Melissa McDougal, candidate for Lubbock ISD Place 5, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, Place 5 for Lubbock ISD. Let me ask you about this, and it's become an issue a little bit in the city council race. You have two former school board members running for city council right now, and one of those issues has been the closing of schools and combining of schools. With those that you have spoken with, is that a concern that is still out there about combining schools and closing schools, and do you think that there may be another round of consolidation in the future for LISD?
I don't know for certain if we will do that. Like I said earlier, I think we've got to look at and see what's the best thing that we can do for our schools and our school system. And there is concern. When I've met with some teachers and some people, there's a concern of that. I love the neighborhood school, being able to walk to your school. I think that is great, and a great thing to have for those that, mom and dad are leaving early for school or even leaving early for work and they need to get to school. But I think there's so many factors that come into play to make that decision and what needs to be done. I think Miller is doing fantastic. We've combined 2 schools there, and I think it's doing really well, and it's set up well. I've seen Centennial has grown a ton since it originally opened, and they're doing fantastic, and with their numbers of kids in their schools and managing that really well with 800 plus children in that school. Mm-hmm. So.
Visiting with Melissa McDougal, candidate for Lubbock ISD Place 5. Let's go ahead and take the break. When we come back, we'll continue our interview with Melissa McDougal, running for Lubbock ISD Place 5. We've got a few more things to get to as far as Lubbock ISD goes. We'll be right back. All right, back on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. In studio with me right now, Melissa McDougal, candidate for Lubbock ISD Place 5. Melissa, thanks again for coming in. Do you have a website or Facebook or anything where people can get either more information or in touch with you if they have any questions?
Just my regular Facebook page, so Melissa McDougal. I've just been keeping updated on there and making comments and that sort of thing. So.
Great. One of the questions that I'm sure you get on the campaign trail, because, again, this is a race that is not focused on a lot by those in the media. You don't have a bunch of stories out there about Lubbock ISD and the school board. What are the main differences when they're looking at, for Place 5, you've got 2 candidates. What are the differences in your mind between you and your opponent? Why should people vote for you?
One, because my children are just entering the school system, I think people may look at that as, from experience, but I think experience comes into what have you done in your career.
Right.
I have a finance background, have worked in mutual funds, been involved with boards, annual reports, those types of things. And I feel like that experience gives me a leg up on being on the board. I am passionate. I'm dedicated. I'm a stay-at-home mom right now, and I have the time to commit. And I want to get in there and be able to help. Not just say yes, but to really look at the details and the decisions that are being made and be an active part of that.
Why is it that for Lubbock ISD, when you're going around and you're knocking on doors, talking to people, and if someone asks the question, why should I care? Why should I care about who's on the school board? Maybe those who don't have kids. Why should I care who's on the Lubbock ISD School Board?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, what do you say to those folks?
Well, I think it's key. I think we've got to have people in these positions that are there for our students and there to take care of our teachers. Because if we don't have the right teachers and we're not taking care of our teachers, we're not taking care of our kids. These children that are in our school are our future. We are training up and raising kids to be our future. And so I think it's key in the decision makers that are in there that those are our goals, and that we're taking the best care that we can of our kids. We're taking care of our teachers, giving them the skills and the additional help that they need to be able to do their job, and help them to do it the best that they can, and know that we have their back and that we're supporting them. Like I said, they're our future. These kids are our future. I think that's how we have to look at it, is it's not just, another kid, and it's important. And the decisions that we're making to kind of help them are key to what's going to happen with them in the future.
One of the things that your opponent brings up that I think that he would like to see change, if he could wave a magic wand and change something inside the classrooms, is testing. And you hear about this a lot from parents and teachers and everyone else, it seems like, in education, teaching to the test. What is something that you would like to see change inside the classrooms, inside Lubbock ISD, and really maybe all ISDs around the state?
Okay. Well, testing is not my favorite thing either. I think in talking with Pam Leftwich at LISD, I think that we have given our teachers what they need in order to be able to test and given those skills. However, when you have that pressure of that test, those teachers, they don't need pressure from LISD. They do it themselves, and then that's felt by those kids as well. What I'd like to see changed is be able to set it up to where we're not, that pressure's not there. We need to know that those kids are ready to be able to move on, but that's not our ultimate maybe an evaluator for our teachers. I think that's probably the biggest thing is they see that and their performance is based on that. I think even without that test, there are different things that they do. I know there's MAP testing that's put in that's just started. We've experienced that with our son Hudson in kindergarten to be able to evaluate a child's performance throughout the year. Mm-hmm. There are certain things that, yes, they need to know in order to be able to move on. And I understand that and agree with that. But I'd like to be able to see, that progress that's being able to seen in that child. No matter where they started, and no matter what they do throughout the year, you're still going to see some sort of progress. It may not be passing, which is what we want, but you're still going to see progress in that child. And so somehow being able to take that pressure off and help those teachers do their job to the best of their ability without having that additional pressure of everybody has to pass.
Right. Visiting with Melissa McDougal, candidate for Lubbock ISD Place 5. If you have a question, we may have a little bit of time to get you in if you have a question for Melissa. One of the common complaints that I hear about Lubbock ISD, and really this goes for a lot of school districts out there, is you hear from administrators, you hear from school boards, we need more funding, we need more funding, we need more funding. Yet you have a lot of people at central office. You have what people say is administrative bloat. Mm-hmm. Do you think that we have that problem here in Lubbock of administrative bloat? If so, how do you deal with that? If not, do you think that may be a problem down the line?
I think it's something we always have to look at and see what's there. It's my understanding within recent years that has been evaluated and looked at, and I think it's something we always have to stay in front of and make sure that we've got the people in place there that we need and not too many, and that we're able to give the resources that we need to our schoolrooms. One of the questions that I've gotten asked was, if you were to cut, what would you cut? That's probably the first place I would look is the administration and that top level before we start cutting out of the classroom. There's so many expectations already there, and the need for more to be able to come to certain schools or whatever it is that we need to have those teachers in place. That's, to me, not the first place to cut. So I think it's something that we always have to look at. I think LISD's done a good job, but I think it's something that we continue to look at as we go forward. You
mentioned off air, one of the questions that you got from a local publication was how to prevent kids from dropping out. Is that a big issue in Lubbock ISD, the dropout rate, and is that something that the school board can really even do anything about?
I don't know exact numbers, Chad, but I do know that it's a concern. It's an issue. We have some families that, they need every hand that they can to help support the family, and so they may drop out and go get a job and do that. So my thought on that is that you've got to start that at the elementary level. You've got to start in elementary school to get that involvement with the parent. It's got to be a community thing and not, just at the school level. You've got to pull in parents from the very beginning and then keep that going all the way through high school and the importance of them learning and growing and teaching that child that they're valued, that they're worth it, the time and the investment, and that they can do it. Mm-hmm. And if you can not only do that as a teacher with that child, but to the parent as well and help teach them in whatever way you can, I think we've got buy-in and we can go forward with that.
You mentioned earlier that one of the reasons people seem to be leaving Lubbock ISD and going to other school districts is Lubbock ISD is not doing a good enough job of selling what they do well. What is something that Lubbock ISD does really well? And on the flip side, what have you heard from people that Lubbock ISD does not do well?
In my experience in with meeting with our principals and such, is that one of the things that I love is the passion that they have for teaching their kids and wanting them to excel. So, opportunities that they have in the elementary school with classes, going into middle school, they're starting to expose them to top topics. So you talk about STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and giving them those opportunities and exposure then. That was not something I had at all when I was a kid. Now, granted, that was a long time ago. But right. Those are great things to expose every child to that opportunity. And then going into high school, they've got a lot of opportunities to continue to grow and learn about different schools. There's cosmetology. They've got culinary opportunities, just different classes.
Melissa McDougal, you can find her on Facebook. If you have any more questions for her, you can find her on there. Thanks for stopping by.